want you to know, Kavika, that we have allowed you to go into, you have security clearance, so you can share your screen. Hallelujah. Welcome.
Thank you, Kiko Dawid. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Let me get
I want you to know, Kavika, that we have allowed you to go into, there you go. I just muted that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. Can you see my screen?
It's about the sharing. It's a yes, we sure can. Yes.
All right.
Whoa, girl. This is somebody's on it. Look at this. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited.
Hold on 1 second.
Wow.
All right. So first I want to thank you, Akika Dawi, for allowing me to share this time of what I consider what I got from this week's Torah portion.
Yes.
I got a lot of things that led to what I want to call the test. And I would say there's been some tests just this week alone. So I'm excited to just share what I've gotten from the different Torah portions of the week. And I also want to thank you for allowing to give some insight on how to, learn the different words, different on the Hebraic learning, comparing it from Hebraic standpoint all the way to just what we can connect it to what we're here until we, get to the land. So I'm excited to go forth and share my presentation. So as you can see, after this week's Torah portion, I will consider it the test. And as we go through the several bubbles that I've sharing here, it will lead to why I called it the test. So I want to start off with some basic Hebrew knowledge. One thing I learned is when I thought of the test, I was thinking of the word temptation, and they'll further lead to test, where the Webster Dictionary, it means to desire to do something, especially something wrong and unwise. So when I saw that, when I was looking into this week's Torah portion, you would see so many points in where Moshe chose, he was chosen 12 men who was sent out to scout the land. And they were men of distinction, head of all the children of Israel. Yah was strategic in sending out these men. But in the midst of that, there was a test that comes out of the word temptation. And with that, the word is makkah, which is temptation and trial. So when I was reading the first part of the Torah portion, I seen that he was not only strategically sending the 12 men to scout the land, but there was a test within that trial, within going into the wilderness, within going to scout and see what's there for them that he promised them. And temptation comes from NASA, which is a testing of, which I saw was a testing of Yah and of the men. So not only were we testing Yah, they're testing Yah, which we do that from time to time. It was also that Yah was testing them. And before I add anything and before we continue, when I started thinking of the ways we tempt and test Yah, one way is through complaining. And I was like, there's one saying I say all the time was, I'm not going to complain, I'm not going to complain, I'm not going to complain. But not realizing that is a form of what I consider testing Yah, is the complaining. Because if we're complaining, which is the next word that I'm going to share, we're kind of doubting him, which comes, we'll start complaining and doubting, and not only doubting ourselves, but doubting him. So as you can see, anan means complaint. So with that being stated, just getting a little background of different Hebrew meanings and of the language and the word of temptation, which comes out of the word test, it leads me to the first test that I find a part of the whole Torah portion for the week. And it starts with the instruction. So Shalach means to send. And when I was going through the Torah portion, there was an error that I found, which is going beyond, going beyond the scope of their mission and drawing conclusions. One conclusion that they drew was the fact that they felt that the men that were there, the individuals that were on the land, were bigger than them. So you find the chosen men going up directed to scout the land, but that's the error. In the Midbar 13:28, starting from 13:2, but specifically 13:28, to be huge and fortified, and saw that the offsprings were of giants. Right there was the error. I felt when I saw that. How many times have we stopped going forth what Yah has told us to do because of exactly what we saw, or what perception of it, in our mindset? That was what stopped them. They were sent to do something, but they didn't completely go through the whole process. They did bring the fruit, the cluster of the grapes, and did what I consider partial of what they were sent out to do. But as we go further, you'll see why I said that. Right here, I was reminded not to be intimidated, and only to go over with this Torah person. I found myself being reminded of the test they were in at that moment. Well, were you going to allow what you see to stop you? And it was just going to scout the land. But when I saw that and saw that Caleb believed that they can possess the land, but the men felt that they were unable to go against the people, I said, again, how many times have we stopped where we were meant to go do just because of what we see in front of us? They didn't follow the instructions. That's what leads to this part, because of the evil report they provided. He didn't ask for an evil report. He asked for them to go to the land, scout it out, bring a report. But that evil report that they brought, that was a test. They brought an evil report that allowed others to cry, to weep, as you can see down the Torah portion, because of what they said about the others being big and they wouldn't be able to go and possess the land because they felt like they were going to be defeated. And this led me to the second, which is the shortcomings. So right here with Bamidbar 13:30-31, then Caleb silenced the people before Moshe and said, we should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. But the man who had gone up with him said, we can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are. Right there was a test. And that's where their test, they became short. And I had to think to myself, like, when he chose them for a reason. He chose them 12 men to go there. So he knew they can defeat. He wouldn't have chosen them if he didn't think they were going to defeat them. So they just basically shortened themselves in possessing the land. And there was that one person, Caleb, that said, we can. But everybody else was like, no, we can't. And I had to say, okay, there's been many of times that I just trying to connect it to where we are today. How many times we done said, I can't, or that's not for me. But we know we would be put into those positions if it wasn't for Yah. So he will allow us to defeat whatever that comes up in front of us. So then that leads to the promise. So Bamidbar 14:21-24, it says, however, as surely as I live and as the glory of Yah fills the earth, that all the people who perceive my glory and the signs that I performed in Egypt and in the desert, yet they have tested me these 10 times, not listened to my voice. And if they will see the land I swore to their fathers, and all who provoke me will not see it. But as for my servant Caleb, since he was possessed by another spirit and he followed me, I will bring him to the land to which he came, and his descendants will drive its inhabitants out. So I broke this down into 4 different parts when I was reading this. However, surely that I live, and as the glory or Kodesh of Yah fills the earth. Right there, that was one remembrance. a reminder to me was, even though Yah is not physically here, he is here. So he still fulfills. So when you go back to them going into the wilderness, he was there with them, but they kind of lost sense of that. And we can sometimes lose sense of that as well. And as we do perceive, as you see into the next verses, we do perceive his glory, and we get remembrance of the signs he did of bringing them out of Egypt and in the desert, yet they still tested him 10 times. I had to think, how many times have I tested Yah? How many times have I not listened to his voice? And I even think of before even coming into, the truth, it's like, how many times have I tested and tested and tested and tested? Yet he still was bringing me through certain things and leading me to where I'm supposed to be. Yet, as you can see, when they were going through this later down in the Torah, they allowed that test for the moment, but he still, allowed them to get to the land eventually. So I realized, okay, if we allow those tests to keep coming, all of that is going to prolong it. And we get lessons and lessons on top of that until we get it right. Kind of like with Makika Dawid said about, the target. You keep trying to aim for that target, but eventually once you get to it, it's a practice and just understanding that, okay, you pick yourself back up. But then at least if they will see the land that I swore to their fathers, and all who provoked me will not see. So he gave an ultimatum. You're either going to see the land or you're not going to see it based off what you're not listening and you're testing me. It's a consequence in the test. But as for my servant Caleb, he was showing us that he would bring, since he had a specific position, a poise, a spirit about him, that he was bringing them to the land and the descendants, showing that he will drive those that are in that land out. So this is where it leads me to the final part of the test, is the doubt and the consequence. And this is where I would spend most of the time on, because it really resonated with these verses. Bamidbar 14:40-43. They arose early in the morning and ascended to the mountaintop, saying, we are ready to go up to the place of which Yah spoke, for we have sinned. Moshe said, why do you transgress the word of Yah? It will not succeed. Do not give up, for the Elohim is not among you, so that you will not be beaten by your enemies. For the Amalekites and the Canaanites are there before you, and you will fall by the sword. For you have turned away from the Elohim, and the Elohim will not be with you. So when I read this, it really resonated, because when you doubt, you're doubting not only the Father, Yah, but you're doubting yourself, and it's a slap in the face to him. I've said when you doubt yourself, you're doubting what he is placed inside of you. And they simply doubted the test. They doubted the wilderness. They felt like they were in the wilderness to be not only tested, but just to be, they complain about things like the food and hunger. And it's a test that we have to take, but we can't doubt in the midst of the test. We got to know who brought us there. We got to know why we're there, and we got to know what is going to come out. And when I thought of that, they were going there for the land. They were going there to scout the land, to see what's coming for them and to see what they're going to go seek after. And we, as we connect that into where we are today on this earth, is to take away the material versus where the future, where we're headed. We know that there's a land for us, and we're going to go back to that land. But in the midst of that, when we're here, we can't be doubting what we're doing here, as long as we're reading the Torah, understanding his directives, instructions, because everything, when we are in the midst of getting ready to doubt, all you got to do is go to the Torah. And that's where I got through the whole this week, since every single thing, there was a sense of doubt, or there's a sense of complaint, or there's a sense of not feeling that they're good enough or strong enough to defeat those that were already in the land. So as I was thinking of those, I thought of this week a moment of doubt, and I said, okay, how can I change the doubt? How can I change our moments of not doubting Yah just in what we're doing here on earth until we get to the land. And this is what I have came up with. First, prayer. I feel like with prayer, you start off with prayer. Not only are you receiving him, but he's receiving you. And like Kika Dawi said, you don't always have to, there's no elaborate prayer, because I've always felt he already knows what you're going to say and what you're going to do before you even do it. So praying is just connecting him in those moments of times. And some people pray just in the morning, midday, all 3 times a day, as the Torah says, which leads to your change of your thoughts. I'm a mental health professional, so I've always think of the mindset. And Yah really going through his Torah, he's always turning toward the mind, turning towards, just like with this doubt. They feel like their mind is set on those individuals on the land, the men on the land were too big for them, those giants. They couldn't defeat that. That all started what was in their mind. So then that leads to practice. Not only we're praying and you're changing your thoughts through the mind and the practice, which the practice comes from the Torah. We can't just read the Torah, but you have to practice it. And that would eliminate the doubts, because you will have his word to his, the word, the instruction, the mitzvah, to allow you to practice to eliminate certain things, whether it's doubt, like we mentioned, the eating. There's so many things of the laws that he has created. And there's things of that will help us with removing the doubt, which goes to release, because when you're practicing, you got to release everything. I connect that to the sin offerings. Of course, we can't do any of the offerings here, because we're not living in the land, but we can practice mentally, physically, and releasing certain things that may allow us to doubt Yah, but change our mindset from the prayer to the thoughts to the practice to the release. And then to finish, I leave that blank. And I leave that blank because it's up to you. It's up to you as the Israel, Hebrew Israelite, Yah's children, to put in place what you have to do in your life to allow him to work, to release the doubt, to release, the complaining, and to see the real frustration here on earth, so we know what we are expected to see in the land. It's so many times we can be so fixated on the material, and that causes us to doubt, that we forget the real fruit. We forget what's really there, the real living bread, because we cry, we get frustrated, we work so hard on the earth, but we forget the living Elohim and what we are expected to have once we get brought back to the land. And that is my presentation. I just wanted to, like I said, it brings the test from just the instructions to the shortcomings to the promises to really dealing with the doubt. If you think of all of it, there was some sense of doubt amongst all the Torah portions this week, and how they either overcame or what the consequences were.
That's too much.
Excellent.
Man.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
My goodness.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Everybody unmute your phone and lift your hands and give Yahweh praise.
Yeah.
For our sister.
Absolutely beautiful.
Good job, Coach.
Wow. This is the reason why Yah has brought us together. Did you hear that what she just said? Did you hear it? Did you hear it? I heard it. I want to thank you, Akoti, for that contribution. On behalf of our Creator, it's tremendous. There's so much that was in that.
Yeah.
I don't know where to begin to say. I know that what we have to talk about to further our understanding. Yes, iPhone 13. Yes, you raise your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got in like 7 minutes late, but what I caught from that presentation, it it hit me a lot because it reminded me it reminded me a lot. When she said, you know, Yah, is with us. We could lose sight of that. We could, mentally like just kind of forget. Just myself, just through my journey. I know how it is. I know how my lifestyle was changing when I was just day in and day out reading the Torah, applying it, weeding out all the negative and, all the negative stuff out of my life, how everything was starting to be smooth. There were still issues, but I could manage them way better because I'm in the Torah and I know how to go about them. And then there was times where I slipped up a little bit, I wasn't in the Torah as much, wasn't, praying as much. And then, started allowing, my environment that I'm in, like, the outside world caused me to slip up and, allowing me to get frustrated all over again, to get irritated all over again. It's like, man. So when she said that chart that she brought up, about the prayer and changing the mindset and then the practice, it's like, that was a big reminder, like, hey, like get back on, get back on track, and it hit me hard, like, because you already know how it is when you got the Torah, when you in it, you're reading it and you're applying it, just like you said, you can't just read it, you gotta apply it, this is work, you can't just read something or listen to something and thinking that everything gonna be cool. Like, nah, you gotta put that work in and
That's
to,
right.
so that was a big reminder, and I thank her for that because I needed that. I needed to see that. I needed to hear that. Just y'all used her to correct me. And,
Wow.
like, boy, get back on track, man.
Praise Yah for that, Kent. Thank you so much. Yes, it's impactful. We have another someone raise their hand. Koti Anzanya would like to make a comment.
Yes, Shabbat Shalom. And I just want to say, Toda Rabbi Yah, my sister, for that beautiful, beautiful, well thought out, highly organized, provocative, thoughtful, intentful exercise and instruction in this Torah portion. And I just want to say how wonderful it is in this day that the people and the descendants of Abraham are coming together, and we're speaking of Torah and we're talking about it among one another again. By the time and I just love the way that you broke down all the, because there was a lot of confusion that happened this week in Torah portion, even when Moshe was like, why are you even bothering at this point in time to even do this? And you just broke it down with so much simplicity. You're such a calm presenter. I mean, if a fire's around, I want you. You know what I mean? You just have a beautiful countenance about you. And I just want to end with saying again with the how you finish with the chart, and we just have to keep on talking about the Most High. When we talk about Him, He is with us, and we pull His consciousness down and His words, and we all are getting to learn Him, and we're taking this journey again, and hopefully we'll get back to the land. And I just love you all so much, and I'm so happy to be on this journey with you.
Oh,
Thank you.
praise Yah. Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you. Praise Yah for that. That's awesome. Wow. Hey, I don't know what to say. Our sister is very calm. Koti Kamiko just Girl, you locked it in. It's going to be very difficult for me to stay kind of wrapped because I like to get unraveled. Okay. So I'm going to try to keep it down. All right. Whew. All right. Here we are. I don't know if you can see my screen, but we thought, this is a journey. Like everyone's been talking about, this is our journey. And on that journey, everyone, we have a mission. Okay. There's a mission that's involved in this. The word shalak means to send. And as Akoti Kavika had brought out, the Yah was testing them. That's the whole reason. He wanted to know, okay? He wanted to know what they were going to do. He said they tested me 10 times. They've really been, doing a lot. They've been complaining like crybabies and whining and complaining and wanting to attack Moshe and Aharon, and it just gets worse. And by the way, it's going to continue to get worse. But this particular Torah portion here, right here, you guys, is one that defines the mission in our lives. Okay. And what we're going to talk about is going to actually gel very nicely what our sister just presented to us, which is amazing. Okay. See right here. One of the first things we need to understand in our approach and on this journey is that we should listen and we should pay careful attention. And that word that's used there is for Shema. This is the commandment. This is the greatest command that Yah has ever told the children of Israel by his servant Moshe, which we all know it. It says Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Yah is one. That's what he is. He's a Echad. And when we talk about being one, we're talking about being in unity. Okay. The unity of what Yah's looking for us to be unified in is to be unified in heart, which is our mind, and to be unified in our being. That's our soul. That's who we are. And to be unified in our resources. And that's in all of our talents and our abilities. Because that's what he wants to do. Yah is interested in being unified with us, to have an alliance with us. Okay. And what? So we can join together, to join forces with him and be an extended arm of Yahweh. That's what he's looking for from his people. And so the only way that you and I can achieve this or even accomplish this is first by understanding that you and I should listen carefully to what Yahweh says. If you notice in the teachings that I give, this is the primary thing I always say, is to listen to what Yahweh has said. Listening to other people is not going to do us any good. There's no advantage. There's a lot of confusion, not only in our Torah portion, but remember they had a lot of influence from the people around them. They had a lot of influence from the people that they just left, was out of Mitzrayim. So they had a lot of baggage that they never fully got rid of. And that's a problem. When you have a lot of other voices that you're listening to instead of Yahweh's voice, you're going to have a tremendous amount of problems. Okay. So this next slide right here, I'm highlighted it with the red to let you know how do you say I am. And the way that you say I am in Hebrew is by using the word which we would call Anoki. Okay. Anoki. And that's spelled A. Forgive my handwriting. My pen, of course, wants to give out on me. Anoki. Okay. Anoki. That's how you say it. Anoki. And so what does Anoki mean? It means I am. The Creator is setting the groundwork and letting us know who he is. He's going to discuss with us today and speak to us through his words that I'm Yahweh. I'm your power. I'm the one who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim in order to be your power. That's the only reason why Yah has decided to get the children of Israel, is to be our power. The power to generate the power that we need in our lives, not just the power of the sun, the moon, and the stars, not the power just of the breath that we have, and not the power of creating the systems within us so we can see, we can breathe, we can hear. I'm the power of your very existence, your life, your soul. I am Yahweh, your power. There is no other power besides Yahweh. No one. Okay. And there is no other power. Earlier this week, I gave you a word called quana. I misspoke. I reversed the letters. It's actually called naqua. 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 And naqua means that you're not going to be innocent. Okay. This idea behind tempting Yahweh and testing Yahweh and committing crimes against Yahweh will not be exonerated. Okay. So today's message is more than a message. It's more than a teaching. It is literally Yahweh going to give us a warning. This is a warning that he's going to give to the children of Israel today. Okay. That Yahweh passed before him, who, Moshe, and proclaimed the Yohed Wahe. Yahweh is power. I already told you I'm your power who brought you out, but I'm power. And within that power that I have, I am the merciful one. I will show compassion when it's needed and necessary. I'm also slow. I'm very slow to anger. We see that in the Torah portion by it being 10 times that the children of Israel had tested him. He said, I'm rich in grace and truth, but that grace is to be shown to the 1,000th generation. And Yah says he's forgiving what? Offenses and crimes and sins. Yah does forgive, yet not exonerating, not causing the guilty to be innocent. You understand? I'm not going to exonerate the guilty. I will forgive, but I won't let anybody go. Okay. But I will cause the negative effects, okay, of the parents' offenses to be experienced by their children and their grandchildren, even to the 3rd and the 4th generations. This is Yahweh speaking to us. Our power is letting us know that I'm not going to exonerate the guilty. I'm not going to do that. It says in the book of Ezekiel that if you and I commit sin, and Yah says that, we were righteous before we committed this intentional sin. Yah says that righteousness cannot deliver you from the judgment that's coming for that act of sin. Yah has to, everything is measured, okay? And it's passed on from generation to generation. This is very important to understand, that you and I can't get away with anything. And our Torah portion says that Yahweh has forgiven. He said, I forgave the children of Israel. Yes, he forgave them. But as sure as I live, that the whole earth is filled with the glory of Yahweh, none, absolutely zippo, none of the people who have saw my glory and the signs I did in Mizraim or in the desert, yet you tested me these 10 times and did not listen to my voice, will see the land I swore to their ancestors, because this is always going to be about the land. The word forgiven is right here in Hebrew, okay? Our Torah portion has the shelach, the shin, and then, it's a sh sound, and then it has the lock, shelach, okay? Shelach or shelach, okay? This word right here is called salak. Salak. So one is shlach and one is salak. So to salak means to forgive, okay? And it means to pardon. Yah says, I have pardoned, okay? Unlike the Christian religion, they tell us that we're pardoned for everything that we do, and there's no consequences behind your actions. According to our way of life and our understanding, there will be consequences. As you see that Yah says, I've forgiven, but yet none of the people who have saw my glory and the signs I did in Egypt and in the desert, yet tested me these 10 times and did not listen to my voice, they will not see the land. Okay. Why is this important for us to know? Because we're in a place where Yah's willing to forgive, but he's not going to exonerate. If you and I continue to press upon Yahweh in a way that we think he's not going to take any action, then you and I are deceiving ourselves. Okay. Yahweh repays. This word right here is called shalem. Shalem. It could be shalom, depending on how you say it, or it could be shalom. But it's still the same word and the same letters that are used for the word shalom. Okay. So the idea of shalom is to be of peace, right? So if you get shalom, you have peace, and to be at peace means to be made whole. But if you're talking about shalom, you're talking about the opposite of what peace is. This means payment. That means the Yah is going to tell us, in order for us to have shalom, in order for us to have peace, in order for us to be whole, somebody has to be paid. Again, going back to the measurements. So Yah's judgment that was going on with the children of Israel was a measurement. Okay, I'm going to bring judgment now. So now I'm going to repay everybody for what they've done. There's going to be a consequence. So this in particular text tells us that he repays those who hate him to their face. It's not going to be an easy message. And he destroys them. He doesn't sit them aside and tries to talk with them over and over and over and over and over again. There comes a time when Yah says, I'm done, as we notice in our Torah portion. He will not be slow to deal with someone who hates him. The individual that hates Yahweh is the one who puts distance between Yah and themselves. And to put distance between Yah and themselves is saying that I'm not going to do what Yahweh says. I'll take a little bit of what Yahweh says, but then in this other area of my life, I'm going to replace what he said with what I think and what I believe. Okay. Yahweh repays. Therefore, Moshe tells us that you and I are to keep the commandments, the laws, the kukim, and the mishpatim, the judgments, which I'm giving to you today, and to obey them. The people who hate Yahweh are the ones who do not keep the laws, the statutes, and the rulings of Yahweh. That's the ones who hate him. In this context here, he's telling us that anybody who hates me is the one who doesn't do what I say. That's why we looked at the word Shema. That's why we said Ani or Anoki. I'm Yahweh. I'm your power. Also, too, we see that Yah says in the book of Isaiah that is written before me, I will not be silent until I repay them. I will repay them to the full. Our own crimes and those of our ancestors together, says Yahweh. You understand? They offered incense on the mountains and they insulted me on the hills. First, I will measure. I'm going to measure out their wages and then repay them in full. The thing about this is our crimes and our ancestors together. In the Torah portion that we read this week, Yah had used a prophetic word about as surely as I live, says Yahweh. That's different than thus saith Yahweh. This was a prophetic saying that I'm going to pay you back. So when he told them that you're going to die in the desert, that was prophetic. They will not only die there at that time, they're also going to die again when he brings them out to the wilderness again, as he told them in the book of Ezekiel. You understand? So Yah has already told, he says, as sure as the earth is filled with my glory, none of these people. And he says the same thing in Ezekiel. Why? Because Yahweh is going to measure out our wages. Everything is measured. Whatever you do is what you're going to get paid for. Here's what Yahweh says. As when juice is found in a cluster. This was found in our Torah portion from the place called Eshcol, the valley of Eshcol. It was named this because the children of Israel took some grapes at a certain season from there. So we know at the time of the season of the grapes, it was between September, I think it was probably the grape season, I believe, is in either August to September, I believe. I might be mistaken here. August to September is this time, but it's the end of the summer, okay? Wish this pen would work, so I don't have to have my ugly handwriting. So between that time, so Yah's letting them know at this in particular time of the Eshcol is directly connected to the cluster. The cluster of grapes, it was with the time when the children of Israel went in to go spy out the land at the time. That's why they were able to bring this cluster back. So it had to be at the beginning of that harvest because they were able to bring something back. If it already had been harvested, they wouldn't have been able to bring anything back. Okay. Well, what it is here, when Yah told us about Eshcol, he's pointing and he's sending a message to you and I directly to let us know that there is a time when I'm coming back. There's a time when I'm going to gather you. There's a time, and I equivalent the gathering of you and the bringing of you like they brought those grapes. There's a season when I'm coming, okay? And that season will be in the grape season. And I'm going to let you know that when juice is found in it, people say, don't destroy it. Still, there's some good in it. So when Yah talks about this good in this cluster, he's making mention to us about that which brought water into the land, and the grape was able to let the water migrate. In the Torah, the word Torah represents rain because it's what points a person in a certain direction. So when the rain goes down, forgive my writing, when the rain goes down on the earth, it goes into the ground. Once the rain hits the ground in a certain direction, it's pointed in its direction it's supposed to hit. Once it hits the ground then absorbs it. And then if it has like a vineyard, the vineyard will then allow the water to migrate into the grapes. And that's why the grapes are full of juice. So what Yah is letting us know is that when I go and I come to do the harvesting, I'm looking for the cluster. I'm looking for the eshkol that has juice in it. And the juice that's in it, it has to have something good in it. It had to be able to absorb the water. And in our case, it has to be able to absorb the Torah. That's why he says, don't destroy it. And he says, so I will do likewise for the sake of my servants, because the servants are the cluster of the grapes, and not destroy them all. See, which gives us a picture of what happened when the people came back. When Israel came back from their tour and their mission, 10 of those people that came back didn't have any good in them. They came back with a different message, but there was some good. There was some good that was in Caleb, and there was some good that was in Yehoshua. You see? So this is the reason why. So in the Torah portion, what I want you to understand is sometimes when you read some of these words, you got to take it a little further and go find out what they mean in Hebrew, and then find out when Yah talks about Eshkol. That's the reason why he's mentioning Eshkol. He's mentioned Eshkol for the sake of bringing us to this in particular place, to let us know that juice is going to be found in this. And if you know how the juice is, then you'll know that Yah says, I'm not going to destroy you if you have the Torah. If you don't have it, you will be destroyed. It was something that Koti Kavika had brought out, talking about the mind. In the mind in Hebrew is called, they interpret it as the heart. That's what they say, the heart. Okay. So it says the heart is more deceitful than anything else and is mortally sick. Who can fathom it? Who can understand it? Who can really truly examine this? Yahweh says, I, Yahweh, search the heart. I test the inner motivations in order to give to everyone what his actions and his conduct deserve. So I think by definition alone, we should know that Yahweh is going to search out and find out what it is that's in us, like he did with the children of Israel. He wanted to know what was inside of them. So the first thing he looks at is the Lav. Okay. The first letter here is the Lamed. Okay. And the Lamed is the staff. And the staff is for guidance. So also, too, it represents authority. That's what it represents. The next letter that you have is the Bet. It means the tent. It's the dwelling. And it also represents inside. So what a person's so-called heart is the authority inside. What's guiding that person? What's leading that person? Okay. And what's leading a person is what's inside of them, which the only thing that you and I have that's in us, that's directing us, is our minds. Because this is what Yahweh's after. Yahweh is after a person's mind. This is what he's after. He's not after your heart that bleeds. He's not after that. He's after this. And Yah says that this is deceitful. He says more than anything else, this is the most deceitful thing that a man has, is because his thought life, the mind is thinking about what a person thinks. What are their thoughts? What in your thoughts in what you think is the things that you speak often. And it's the things that you meditate on. It's the things that you and I believe. That's where all this happens. It happens in the mind. Okay. So this is what he's after, because it's deceitful. It will actually trick you and make you think that something exists when it doesn't. This is and where do the thoughts come? What is speech? Speech is nothing but words that came from your thoughts. The words that we hear are the words that determine what you and I think. So if every time you turn around and you put on some music and it's talking about F this and BITCH this and this and this and that and da 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 da, and it sounds good, you're poisoning your mind. If you're listening to secular music, that's going to form and transform your mind. That has an influence on you. If you're listening to someone telling you other words and other things and other ideas besides what Yahweh says, you're going to be influenced. And this is one of the reasons why the children of Israel did what they've done. It's because what was inside of them. I call it heart failure. This is the formula. There's a formula for heart failure. And I'm not talking about heart failure like my mama, she ate bad and it clogged her up. It could be that, you know what I'm saying? I'm talking about the thinking, the failure of one's mind. The elements that I have listed here: fraud, fear, and faithless. Okay? We're going to discuss these areas, every last one of them, because this is the formula that the children of Israel had. You said, what do you mean fraud? Yah is about going to expose Israel today. Yah is I'm going to say some things. I'm going to share some things with you that will cause you to either say, I'm going to stay on this class, or I'm never coming back again. That's just what it is. I'm not here to make us fall in love with each other. I'm here to tell all of us the truth about ourselves. Okay. The fact of the matter is this: you and I need to look at who we truly are. Okay. And what we're going to find is that if you have any of this inside your mind, you have any falsehood and you have any fear, there's two types of fears, but I'm going to bring that out. And if you have any type of attitude about being faithless, you're definitely going to be a failure. You're going to fail in this mission. Fraud has to do with intention. It has to do with the intention to deceive others. The children of Israel had an intention to deceive Yahweh. And it didn't start when they went into the land to go scout it out, or when they came back. It started before then. They've been on a journey with Yah for a long time. And the whole time that they've been with him, they have been lying. They are a walking, living fraud. There is a consequence for becoming a fraud. There's a consequence for hiding and deceiving. There is a consequence that will ultimately end up coming out at the end. Moshe came and summoned the leaders of the people and presented them with all these words which Yahweh had ordered him to say. And all the people answered as one, everything Yahweh has said, we will do. Lie, a fraud. A fraud. The whole time, it's a fraud and it's a lie. We know this to be true. There's evidence to the fact that they didn't do this. That was a witness against them. That's evidence. Because Yah has given the 10 words. This right here was in Exodus chapter number 20. This right here is evidence to the fact that they said all the words that he said, we will do. They did not do. 40 days later, after they received this, they built a golden calf. Here's someone giving a testimony to the fact that Israel has always been a fraud. False pretense. But they tried to deceive him with their words. They lied to him with their tongues. Why? For their hearts were not right with him. That lavavka was not right. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad, Uahavata et Yahweh Eloheka, with lavavika, with all your heart. Nefeshka, all your being. And Emiodaka, all your resources. They lied and their hearts weren't right with him. And they were unfaithful to his covenant. Yet he, because he's full of compassion, he forgave them. He salaked their sin. He carried, he pardoned, and put it away from them. And he did not destroy them. Many times he turned away his anger and didn't rouse all his wrath, as we discussed earlier this week. There were several occasions where Yah said, I'm going to wipe every last one of them out and start over with one individual. If I have to. Yah has told us over and over and over again. And this in particular Torah portion is one of the most outstanding revelations that you and I will ever have. These people are a fraud. What did they say when they came back? When they came back from doing what he asked them to do, this is part of their fraud. They told him this, who, Moshe? We entered the land where you sent us, and indeed it does flow with milk and honey. Yes, here's the fruit. Here's the evidence of that. Then they use this word ephes. Ephes. E-P-H-E-S. Ephes. And it means to cease. What they were saying when they said, however, was saying, we don't care about any of this. We don't care about that. All we care about is the fierceness of the people in the cities being fortified, and they're very large. And also we saw giants there. This is what you call a pretext. When you're talking to someone and they tell you something, they'll tell you what you want to hear about, yeah, we did what you asked us. But, and however, meaning let's stop talking about that. But this is the real issue. The issue is not the land. The issue is the land being fierce and the cities are fortified and very large. Everything that Moshe had asked them to find out whether it was or not, they did find out. But because of who these people are, they wanted to put a pretext. They're mentioning this only to get away from going into the land. The whole time they've been out in the wilderness, they've been complaining, have they not? When he's going to feed us, we should turn back. It's better when we were there. They want to be part of the society where they had their influences. They still want to be part of that. They don't want to be part of this new community. They don't want this. They don't want the rulership of Yahweh. They don't. Listen what the master says. Because these people approach me with empty words and honor they bestow on me is mere lip service, while in fact they have distanced their hearts, their minds, and their fear of me is just a commandment of human origin. We will do what a man would say, but we have a problem when Yah says something. You'll pay your taxes when you got to pay them. You'll get a notice, tell you got to pay your taxes. You don't pay it, they'll levy your accounts. They'll shut your business down. They'll do a whole bunch of different stuff to you. We'll follow them. We give Yahweh a lot of lip service, and that lip service is coming from a heart that has been distanced from Yahweh. A distanced heart is a heart that hates Yahweh. A distanced heart is a distanced mind. They're never thinking about him. The only time they think about him is on the Shabbat because they don't want to die. The only time they're thinking about him is when they need something. That's the only time. They're not talking about really being with Yah. They got a whole bunch of talk. And Yah says, I know who these people are. I know what they're doing. They're a fraud. The recipe for failure, heart failure, mind failure, is to be false and to be afraid. This emotion, this unpleasant emotion that they get and that we get is based on a belief. You know, there's some teachings out there to talk about fear being false evidence appearing real. I like it. I like it. That's what they say. False evidence appearing real. That's a nice way to look at it. It's a belief. It's a belief system that someone or something is going to cause you pain or become a threat to you. Yes, Azania.
Yeah, and I just want to say that a lot of people, even the 2/3 that have refused to submit and be obedient and follow the commands, a lot of them are really suffering mental health issues right now. A lot of our people, the suicide rate is crazy among our people. They're feeling fear. They're thinking that they know something horrible's coming. They think they can stock up on food and other supplies and get out of it. They're really having a hard time. So, yeah.
And that's where we are. And that's part of the curse, right? Yah says, I'm going to make you full of fear and full of anxiety. That's part of the curses. So what we have here is this belief system, right, that causes us to feel a certain way is based on emotion, right? So the emotions causing people to believe things, okay? So the children of Israel used the excuse, the pretext about these giants, about the fear, right? Remember, Moshe said, when you go in there, be bold and take some fruit. And they came back. So that meant they were bold for that. But when it came to the things that Yah wants us to do, that's when we lose the sense of being courageous. And this is when we play the fear card, like I'm afraid I can't do it. A lot of people make all kinds of excuses. Again, it's a pretext. It's a false pretense, okay? So Yahweh said to Moshe, this is interesting. How much longer is this people going to treat me with contempt and disdain and hatred? How much longer will they not trust me, especially considering all the signs that I performed among them? When I put these slides together, I've been working on them for the last couple of days. And one of the things that I didn't understand until this morning when I read it, because I read the Torah portion again this morning completely. And the number one thing that popped in my head out of all of it was Yah saying that they don't trust me. When you find out that the people that you rescued, saved, loved, fed, clothed, all this, and defeated their enemies and rescued them and delivered them from a life of slavery, and their reward and their response to you is based upon fear of them not trusting and having a belief. This belief came from their influences. They don't trust Yahweh. When you find out that somebody doesn't trust you with their well-being, it does something to you. When a father finds out that his son doesn't trust him or his daughter doesn't trust him, it breaks his heart. When a wife finds out that her husband doesn't trust her, every time she turns around, he's asking, where are you going? He doesn't put any confidence in her whatsoever. That can destroy a relationship. That can destroy, when you're in business with someone and you find out that the person that you're in business with turn around and don't trust you. So they're hiding things from you. They're not letting you know, they're concealing information. They're making decisions without your notice or awareness of it. Trust is a huge issue. And this is what Yah has shown me today, not the whole week, today, this morning, that the reason why we have a problem is because we don't trust Yahweh. We don't trust him with our lives. We don't trust him on our decisions. And this is the reason why we make these unrash decisions or rash decisions, these uninformed decisions. It's because we don't trust him. The people of Israel, the children of Israel, they did not trust Yahweh. It wasn't, and the leaders didn't trust Yahweh. 10 of them didn't trust him. Why? Because they were a fraud. When you don't have an established relationship, a real relationship, there is no trust. You could be with somebody for 30 years and find out that they don't trust you. They don't trust you whatsoever. They've been with you this whole time and they don't trust you. They have no confidence in you. They'll do business with you. They don't trust you. Yah is concerned with us about how we feel about him. If you and I don't trust him, listen carefully. If you and I don't trust Yah, you can't trust anybody else. If Yah doesn't have, if you don't have any confidence in Yahweh, you can't be trusted. That's the truth. Because you now have decided to be untrustworthy. It means this is the formula for failure. This is the formula. False pretense in all this comes from fear. They were afraid. And they said this: we can't attack these people or those people. We can't attack them. The word I have here about can't, and this is a huge deal for us, is yakal. Come on, internet, don't fail me. Yakal. It means to prevail. It means to overcome. It has to do with the idea of ability. They said that they don't have the ability to attack these people. And they made a false pretense, as Akoti brought out, that they have lied and said, well, these people are stronger than we are. We're going to prove that that was a lie. Okay. So what did they do when they figured out they didn't have any ability? They gave a negative report. Instead of us pushing forward with Yahweh, instead of us trusting the Torah, instead of us trusting each other, what we'll do is we'll come up with something negative to say to negate the action of making it happen, to bring about what's supposed to happen. Ability means action. It means to do. So we'll make up all kinds of excuses. And when they did this, they were saying that, guess what? Number one, Yahweh's not our master. We ourselves, we can't attack those people. As long as you and I keep pushing Yahweh out of the equation, then it is just us. Yahweh has to be part of the equation if you and I are going to be part of his family. You and I cannot operate outside of Yahweh. You and I cannot make decisions outside of what Yahweh says. I don't understand why this is such a big deal for our people. They do not want him to be their master. But this is a pretext. This is another false fraud, and they stemmed it in fear, saying that they did not have the ability to do what he said. But here's what the text did say. They rose up early the next morning after they got the judgment, well, by the way, that they caused. They caused that judgment. Y'all didn't want to do that to them. They caused it. They pushed his hand. They rose up early the next morning. They came up on the top of the mountain. Listen to what they said against themselves. We are. We're here now. Yeah, we did sin, but here we are now. But now we'll go up to the place where Yahweh's promised. Playing games. I thought you just said that we can't go. We can't do it. But they rose up early the next morning after they received notification that Yahweh says you don't go up. We're turning back around. They thought he was playing. And kata is a sin. Talks about missing that mark. Even though you and I miss the mark, listen to me carefully. When Yah gives a word that says that I say this and I'm proclaiming something, and I've been telling us for the last couple of weeks, you and I better hope that he doesn't say it's over. That's what you and I better hope for. We better hope that he remembers Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. That's what you and I better hope for. Because the moment that he says something, that's the moment everything is going to change. The sin did not cause Yahweh to change his mind. You can acknowledge your sin, but if you went too far with Yahweh, it doesn't matter if you made a confession, because at this moment they said, here we are, we did sin. Confession with a half-heartedness won't get you anywhere. If it was a true confession, it was a true sin, they would have obeyed and listened to what Yahweh said, but they didn't. They presumed upon Yah and act as if his word wasn't valid. Even though he said, you're not going, they didn't believe that either. I have this up. I hope you don't like, or hope you like the colors. And I know you probably don't know what it says. Some of you might, because you read Hebrew. Okay, it says mi, titain, the wahaya, the lavavem, ze de lahim, the la yira, the oti, the lishmor de the call, the mitzvotai, the call hamamayim, the lama'an, the yatav de lahim, the livne, the la alam. And basically it says, who will give and exist a mind to fear me and guard all my commandments, all their days, that it might go well with them and with their children. I transliterated this and translated it into its proper form. They used to say, I wish that they always had a heart to fear me. This is found in the book of Deuteronomy, Davarim, chapter number 5, and I think it's verse number 29. They said, I wish that they would have a heart to fear me. He never said, I wish. He said, me. And your Hebrew word for me means who. English, it would be an M. Yod right here would be an I. Me, like Mia. Okay. If it was Mia, we'd put an A right there, but it's me. Me means who, and who is an interrogative. Yah is asking a question. That's what to interrogate means, to ask a question. So Yah is asking about the individual who would do this. So the who here is not a group effort. The who to fear is with this letter right here, this little yod right here. That's he, meaning person. Who will give? The yatain is give. Who will give and exist? Wahaya. the lavavim, the mind. That's not, it's not the bleeding heart. Okay. So the children of Israel in context was afraid and shaken, scared. Let us go back to our tents. And Moshe said, yes, send him back. I mean, Yahweh said, yes, send him back. But Yah asked this question. Why did Yah ask an interrogative question to a people who just left and went back to their tents? He didn't ask, I wish they had a heart like this. He was asking a question, who of all the children of Israel will give and exist a mind to always fear me? Because if you and I fear Yahweh, we will guard all of his commandments, not some of them. We'll take Yahweh at his word. We'll trust Yahweh. We won't abandon the relationship. It's always about who. Part of our equation again is faithless. This is the recipe or the formula for that which means heart failure, mind failure. It's to be disloyal, especially to a spouse or a partner, untrustworthy. The moment that we cross this line, when I talked to earlier in meaning Shema, we talked about Yah, about being our partner. You and I are partners. You and I are supposed to be akkad. It's supposed to be unified, not separate. When someone wants to be separate and they're in a relationship, they're disloyal and they're untrustworthy. You can't trust somebody who has another agenda outside of the oneness and the alliance that you have with this person. Could my wife trust me? Just asking a question. Could she trust me if every time she turned around, I was trying to figure out how to do my own thing? Or she found a phone number of another woman in my phone? Or communication? Could she trust me? How about if I'm outside buying property by myself and I had a little special getaway somewhere and she found out about it? Could she trust me? I say this because this is what the problem is. There's trust issues among the children of Israel, and the trust issue is with their Elohim. And it didn't start when they got in the wilderness. It started before. Yah said, I told them, each of you, Yisrael, each of you, and he's talking to us today, to throw away the detestable things that draw your eyes. Do not defile yourselves with the idols of Mizraim. The idols are the gods that they serve. The gods that they serve told them how to live their lives. The gods that they served dictated how they would treat other people. The God that they served told them that they could have different relationships with whoever they wanted to. The gods that they served, the influences they had, caused them to rob, cheat, and steal, and murder, amongst so many other things. The gods and the idols that they worshiped allowed them to eat certain things. He tells us again, I am Yahweh, your power. I told you to throw away the detestable things that draw your eyes. Our eyes are supposed to be on the Torah. But what did they do? What did these people do? They rebelled against me and they wouldn't listen to me. They did not, each one of them, throw away the detestable things that drew their eyes, and they did not abandon the idols of Egypt. He told them this while they were in Egypt. So it tells us that the Torah doesn't always tell us everything at the beginning. It doesn't list every single detail, but Yah spoke to them. But being the fraudulent people they are, being the fake people that they are, having the desire to do their own thing, they only wanted that which was beneficial to them. They're only with Yah because he could do what he could be whoever they want him to be. They're trying to shape him. That's why they were testing him. Hey, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? Can they do this for me? They were a nagging, unappreciative wife. Then he said, I will pour out my fury on them and spend my anger on them there in the land of Mizraim. That's part of the story that nobody ever told us. We thought it was just in the wilderness. No. They've been false to Yah from the beginning. Unlike their fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, they were faithful. This word that I have here is called Baal. And that word is husband. A husband is a master and a ruler. Okay? I don't want you women to get upset with me. I'm going to tell you what Yah says. A husband is a ruler. He is the master. He does have rule over his dominion. Listen to what this husband said. Here the days are coming, says Yahweh, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Yehudah. It will not be like the covenant I made with their fathers on the day that I took them by their hand and brought them out of the land of Mizraim. It's not going to be like that because they, for their part, violated. They crushed my covenant. They broke it. They smashed it, even though I, for my part, was a husband. Yah is the protector, the provider, and everything for his house. He is the master, not only of the children of Israel, but he's the master of the whole entire universe. So if we're not listening to him, we're not being faithful. We're not. Yah has given marriage and an institution of it to give us a clue on how things are supposed to be done. The moment that you and I don't operate within those boundaries, in those set guidelines, you're being faithless. But you can not only be faithless to Yah, Yah has set it up for the children of Israel to understand that even if the people of Israel, a man or woman, when they commit any kind of sin, any kind of sin against another person, they're breaking faith with Yahweh. Our faith is not just to our Creator. Our faith is with one another. That's the cold part about everything. So then it ties in what Yah's talking about. You and I can't expect to be so-called faithful to him, but then every time you turn around, I'm being unfaithful to you. Every time I turn around, missing the mark on you. I don't care how you feel, so I'll just keep doing what I'm going to do. And you really believe that Yah is going to accept that? He's not going to accept that. If you and I mistreat each other, Yah's not accepting that. Any kind, any kind of sin. And he ain't just talking about marriage. He's talking about relationships, because this is what this is all about. It's about a relationship. It's about how we think. Who do we trust? Who do we listen to? Who are we faithful to? Are we going to be fake? Are we going to be fraudulent? Or are we doing everything? We're hiding things from Yah. And then if you were unfaithful to Yah, again, to qualify what I said, when you break faith with one another, you're breaking faith with Yah. So Yah has the system set up to, you can't do it right with each other, then you can't do it right with me. I hope this is resonating, that we have to do a better job as a people, because it's true, the influences have influenced us. They have. They've worked their way for hundreds of years into us. Our slave masters taught us everything we needed to know about how to be disrespectful and how not to be a community, how not to have leaders. It's so bad right now that you can't be a leader. You can't, without being questioned about your intentions and your motivation. Just think if you had the leaders of those 10 individuals that had strong names, like Yah hears, Yah's my rock, all the people that he sent. Just think about that. What would it be like? What would it be like? There's also a formula of being wholehearted. Wholeheartedly. Here's the formula. And there's more to this. There's consistency, there's compassion, there's all these different things. But I've chosen these three particular words here because each of them means something that has to do with this Torah portion. First and foremost is the courage that these people lacked. Okay, the competence. In order for us to do anything, we're going to have some competency. We're going to have some knowledge, some skills, some aptitude. We're going to have it. We can't just be some bozos running around and just doing things in whatever manner we choose. We have to be strategic. And also, we have to have and possess the ability to conquer. Courage is about doing something. Doing something that frightens one. Having the ability to do it. You don't think Caleb and Joshua were scared? They were. And there's evidence in that in the text. If you would read it, you would find out that Yah had to tell Joshua later on in the book of Joshua, Yehoshua, be bold and be strong. Get courage. I need you to have courage. It takes courage to do what Yahweh says. In spite of that which is before you, in spite of all the challenges that we face, we can still have courage, even if you're scared. There was nothing so special about Caleb that he wasn't afraid. He just had a different type of mind. He had a different type of mind. And what we understand about his name, if you look carefully at his name, it has the lav in it. And what is the lav or the lave? What is it? We went over it earlier.
The heart, the mind.
It's your heart, it's your mind. It's your mind. That's what he had. He had the mind. He had the authority within himself, within his inner man. He knew it. The first letter in the Hebrew language that's here, right here, that's represented by this first letter is a kaf. That means to be like. It's a preposition for L-I-K-E. Like. And the reason why they use the word like is because it represents the palm of the hand. And when you want to find out what something is, you put it in the palm of your hand and you look at it. If you want to know what some seeds were, you would put the seeds and you would crush them up and you look at them. You'd be like, oh, look, okay, that looks like this. You would examine it. So this word here, Kalev, that's his name, Kalev, means like mind. Like mind. Okay. They give him a name that says it means dog. So does he have a mind of a dog? Yes. He wanted to go after something. And he didn't care what it took to get it. He was going after it. What else is a dog like? They're loyal. My poor little dog just died about a week ago. We had to bury him. His name was Judah. I miss that little guy because he would sit by my side. He knew that I was his master. He knew it. And he would do his best to wag his tail to get my attention. And this is what this man was like to Yah. He had a different mind. What was different about him is that he said he had a different spirit. Remember, we're talking about courage. If you and I are going to obtain any type of sense of courage and boldness, you and I are going to have to be different. We're going to have to be different. The word different right there was a word in the Hebrew called akar or akarith, like, you know, the akarith hamayim, meaning last days. He had another spirit. He had something different, another one. He was different from everyone else, okay? And his ruach was one of, it says akareth, and it's the same word that's used for the last days. What he had is something that you and I need. If you and I are going to be like the mind of Caleb, you and I have to have a different spirit. And that means that you and I need to have a last days type of spirit. That's what you and I need. You and I don't need a spirit of complacency. We do not need a spirit of apathy. You and I do not need a spirit of being lethargic. You and I do not need a spirit of pride and arrogance. What you and I need is a different type of spirit. We need a last days type of spirit. Azania is going to put together a teaching that has to do with the last days on her website, Rising Zion, or Zion Rising. That's what he had. And that's what you and I need. And it also states that he fully followed Yahweh. He followed me, just like a dog. That means he gave every part of himself. He didn't leave any part of himself out, like the other ones and like the people who did not go in. They were fake. And they were a walking fraud the whole time they were there. They never trusted Yah. And when you come to the point in your life where you're faced with challenges and you haven't been faithful to Yah, you won't have any confidence to stand before your enemies. You've been faking it the whole time. It reminds me of the story my wife told me. She said when she was a little girl, she invited her grandmother to a concert for her to play her clarinet. And she said that she, and I hope she don't mind me sharing this, she was a little girl. And her grandmother came, and then after the concert, her grandmother said to her, "You're faking it." She looked like she was playing, but she was faking it. What am I saying? Why I share this story? Because you and I could be the people playing the clarinet, and we make everybody else think that you and I got it together. We got a good look. You know, we got our hair, we got our clothes, we got the beard, we got our tzitzits on. You know, we're cooking Shabbat. We're not working, doing all kind of stuff. But don't you know that you could do all that? And if you don't have this other spirit, the real true one that's willing to be courageous, and you haven't been really truly walking with Yah, when opposition comes, you won't be the one to stand up. You'll be the one to cower down. So I'm here to encourage as well for us to stop playing games, because there's going to come a time in the Akarith where Yah's going to find out whether or not you did have a heart like his. And he will want to know, did you fully follow him? This is the recipe for entering the land. If you don't have the mindset of this in particular man that Yah gave to us as an example, you and I are not going in to the land. I don't care what family you're from. I don't care how pretty you are. I don't care how long your hair is. You're not going to step 1 foot into the land. I can have 1,000 slides to tell you that if you're not righteous, you ain't going in. But I thought I would just share what he said, that if you don't fully follow Yahweh, that means listen to him carefully. That means don't do something and think that you're going to get away with it. Yah says, you're not going into the land, but he will. And it's not only belong to him, but it's going to belong to his descendants, which tells us that this man was instrumental in caring about his descendants. Without the obedience of us, there won't be any other continuance. Your family won't continue, period. Here's that prophetic message I was trying to tell you about, where Yah had put it in Nahum, a prophetic declaration. This is it. Tell them this, as surely as I live, Yahweh swears, and surely as you have spoken in my ears, I will do this to you. This is what they said. They said, oh, we wish that we would have died in the desert. I'm going to give you what you asked for. Your carcasses will fall in the desert. Every single one of them, or every single one of you who were included in the census over the age of 20, you who have complained against me will certainly not enter the land about which I raised my hand to swear that I would have you to live in it, except for Caleb and the son of Yephuneh. Yephuneh means he turns his face. That's who Caleb's dad is. Okay. Meaning Caleb was like his dad. He turned his face to who? To Yah. Yehoshua, the son of Nun. Nun means continue. That's one of the Hebrew letters. They're going in. Yehoshua told you, be strong, be bold, for I will cause this people to inherit the land. I swore to their fathers a land. It's all about a land that I would give to them. Okay. Only be strong and be very bold in taking care to follow all the Torah. That's why you need to be strong for this sake, for the Torah's sake. That's what you need to be bold about, which my servant Moshe ordered you to follow. Do not turn from it either to the right or to the left, then you will succeed. That's where our success is going to come from, is when we follow what Yahweh says. And if it was good enough for Yehoshua, I know it's good enough for us. Being bold is a command. Being strong is a command. Yah says, haven't I ordered you to be strong and be bold? Haven't I commanded this? So don't be afraid or downhearted, because Yahweh, your power is with you wherever you go. I like what Okoti had mentioned in her presentation. And I agree 100%. Yah may not be physically here with us, and we may not physically have his temple with us, but Yahweh is with us when you and I do what he says, because it's him who's guiding and leading us right now. Yah is our shepherd. Competence. Again, doing something. Having the ability to do something successfully and efficiently. We got an example with Caleb. Back our example. He silenced the people around Moshe. That word silence there is he called hasa. He caused the people to be quiet because he believed that he had the ability to do it. He said, we ought to go up immediately, take possession of it right now. There's no question that we can't conquer it. Got to have courage. You have to have that type of mindset. Yehoshua, the son of Nun, the one who continues, meaning salvation continues. That's what Yehoshua means, Yahweh's salvation, and the Nun means continues. So if you put his name together, the son of Nun, Yehoshua is the son of continuance. He's going to continue. The salvation is going to continue because Yah is going to use him, but he got to be bold. Caleb, the son of Yephuneh, from the detachment that had reconnoitered the land and tore their clothes and said to the whole community of Israel, the land we passed through it in order to spy out is an outstanding land. It's outstanding. They were competent. They knew that they had the ability. Yes, Azania.
I didn't realize my hand was up. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. I'll take it down.
So what we have here and continuing is these men of examples of boldness, courage, and competency. I didn't think it was fair just to tell about how men are. I want to tell you about the women of Yahweh. I know they're not part of our Torah portion, but I want to let you know. There's 7 women that pop in my head right now. And the 7 women that I've listed, 7 means oath, and it means promise. It means to swear. Okay? Sarah, was she capable? Was she courageous? Was she competent? Yes, she was. What kind of courage did she have? Oh, she had the courage to help bring about the promise that Yah made to Abraham. Did she have competence? She sure did. She ordered her house the way she wanted to. She was even a mistress, a master, and ruled over Hagar. When the Malachim showed up, did she go out there and make a meal for them? Yes, she did. Was Rivkah, was she bold and courageous? Yes, she was. She was instrumental in helping bring about the blessing that Yahweh had previously told her about her 2 sons. Did she have confidence? Yes, she did. She instructed Yaakov, go get this, go get that, go get this, so we can make it happen. Leah, the weepy eye one? Did she have courage? Yes, she did. Was she competent? Yes, she was. She brought about 6 sons. 6 for her husband, even though she was never loved. You know, it takes courage to stay with a man that doesn't really fully love you, but had his eye on somebody else, somebody you were never intended for him. Raquel, same thing. She was barren. What did she do? She had enough courage to give her handmaid to her husband so she can bring about a child, so she could be part of the game. Competence. Devorah, one of my favorites. Dalit, the Bet, and the Resh, represented here by this letter V right here, but it's really a B. And it comes for this understanding of Debar. And Debar means a word. And it means to what has been spoken and has been arranged. She is and was a judge of Israel. Very powerful woman. She had a husband. She did. But she was courageous and she had competence. Yael is the one who Yah used to kill a man and take a stake and drive it through the man's head. She had courage. She wanted to do it. And guess what she did? She gave the man some warm milk to fill his stomach up so she can put him to sleep. That's competence. You cannot have courage without competence. Last and final one is Abigail, which is David's wife that he got. What happened to her? She was married to a fool named Nabal. When David's men asked for food, he rejected them. She heard about it, and she went and brought food and wine to David and stopped David from coming there and killing everybody. She had enough courage to stand before David herself and enough competence to appease him by bringing an offering to him. And she did it in secret. Sarah lied. She laughed. Did you laugh? No, I didn't. Rivka, she hid from her husband what she was doing in assisting the son to receive the blessing. This woman paid her sister in order to have relations with her husband. Raquel hid the gods of her father in order to protect her husband. So we got the one over here that's willing to, give her handmaid, her mistress, or her serving girl to be the wife of Abraham. You understand? You got women in here that are hiding things from their husband. But for what intent? To harm them? What intent? Abigail hid what she was going to do with David from her husband. This is the nature of a woman, is to hide things. But there's two ways that you can do it, ladies. A kototh. You can hide things in order to bring about the will of Yah. And in your hiding, don't injure your husband. Protect your husband. You are capable, you have courage, and you can do it with competency. Those are the ancestors of the past. There's another woman that I want to share with you who is not one of the women of Yahweh. It's a prostitute named Rekav. Yehoshua, the son of Nun, secretly sent out 2 spies from Shittim with these instructions: go and inspect the land of Yederkol. And they left and they came to the house of the prostitute called Rekav, where they spent the night. Here's a prostitute. Listen what this prostitute said. The 2 men had not yet lain down, and she returned to the roof and said to them, I know that Yahweh has given you the land. After she lied to the king of that land, she lied too, and she concealed them. But she did it for a reason. She did it to protect. I know. Look at the competency here of a prostitute. I know that Yahweh has given you the land. Fear of you has fallen on us. Everyone in the land is terrified at the thought of you. This is 40 years later, after the children of Israel, the ones who have died in the wilderness, have finally finished dying, and Yah's ready to bring in the new batch. So when Moshe prayed to Yah and says, don't do that, don't kill him, because everybody's going to hear about it. Here's the evidence of that. Everybody knew what Yahweh had done. We've heard what Yahweh dried up the water in the Sea of Suf ahead of you. When you left Egypt, we heard about that. We heard what you did to the 2 kings of Imri on the other side of Yarden, Sikon and Og, that you completely destroyed them. As soon as we heard it, our hearts failed us. Because of you, everyone is in a state of depression because of you. For Yahweh, your power, she recognized that Yahweh was their power. He has power in heaven above and on earth below. She knew it. And what don't these people today know? That Yah is the one who's in the heaven and on the earth. This prostitute knew this. She had enough competence and enough courage and enough boldness to lie to save her and her family. She wanted them to swear by Yahweh because she showed kindness to them. And she wanted them to show kindness to her father's family, to give she needed some evidence of the fact of their good faith. And let me tell you something about this. The only evidence that they could have given them or her is their word. And she understood if they were to say and swear by Yahweh that their word was good. If you and I take an oath and we take it in his name, you and I are going to have to show good faith about what we say. not being fraudulent, not being fearful, not being faithless. This prostitute understood this principle, and so could we. She wanted the lives of her father and her mother and her brothers and sisters and everybody to belong to them so they wouldn't be killed because Yahweh was coming in to destroy them. She knew what the fate was going to be. She knew the people she lived among, but she had enough competence. When you see trouble coming, you need to have some competency. When Yahweh tells us that I'm telling you that I'm coming back, you need to understand. You got to use competency. You have to be competent. You have to have courage. The men replied, our lives are certainly worth yours, provided you don't betray our mission. They understood what their mission was. And the reason why they were ready for it is because they went in with a mission. It was the second generation of people that came after their ancestors who betrayed Yahweh, who abandoned Yahweh, who hated Yahweh. They understood when Yahweh gives us this land, gives us the land, we will treat you kindly and in good faith. So what did she do? She lowered them by a rope out of the house. The same rope that she lowered them in is the same rope that they said, hang this out. We're going to come in 3 days. And when we get here, you have this out. But if you don't have this rope hanging out of here, you're responsible for your own life. Look at the descendants of the present. The Isha, the women of Yahweh. Look at it. They can have the same courage. They can have the same competency as the ancestors of the past. Yahweh is the past, the present, and the future. And if you claim to be one of the women of Yahweh, you must possess boldness. You must possess competency. You have to. Because based upon you, the community won't grow if you don't do it. If you don't do it, if you don't give yourselves to Yahweh, if Sarah didn't give herself to Abraham and call him her master, she was willing to do what Yahweh wanted to be done. If you hide anything, and it's not for the will of Yah, you are in direct opposition to the Creator. Well, Akika, I'm not married. You're still a woman of Yahweh. You can still have the same boldness. You can still have the same capacity. You can still have it. I don't care if you can't have kids. You still have courage and competency to do what Yahweh says. Because you and I have to conquer. We have to overcome. And we have to take control. That's what you and I are called to do. That is in our name. Our name, Yisrael, means to overcome and prevail with men and with Yah. Do you not know that if you oppose what Yahweh says, that you will not succeed? You will not succeed. You will not defeat an enemy. You will not defeat a mindset. You will not defeat a problem. You will not defeat an addiction. You will not defeat anything without boldness, courage, and competency. You need these things. Because Moshe answered, why are you opposing Yah? What he said. You won't succeed. Don't go up there because Yahweh isn't with you. Yahweh is not with us when we are in opposition about what he has said. You will be defeated. The mission will fail. The greatest enemy that you and I will ever face is ourselves. You and I are the greatest enemy you will ever face in your life. You're the one that's going to lie to yourselves. You're the one who's going to be a fraudulent pretense. I'm doing this because this is who I am, and you don't think Yahweh knows who you are. Yah has said in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter number 29, verse number 19, I think. You can go look at it. He says that you can have a group of people and somebody inside that group is saying, I'm going to continue to do what I want to do. I'm going to stubbornly keep being the way I want to be. And Yah says, I'm going to destroy that person. Because there's no reason for you to be part of the community. If you're not a person with this mindset of conquering yourself first, you can't conquer anyone else. You can been spending all this time with Yahweh, and you've been faking it, and you've been acting like you're really with them, and you're using fear as your reason why. I'm afraid if he does this, then this is going to happen. I'm afraid if she says this, I'm afraid that this will happen. I'm afraid. Those all the pretext. That's all the fake stuff that need to be said. Okay. It's not going to work. You and I have to defeat ourselves, this mind first. And by us defeating that, you and I have to go to Yah. Yes, Azanya.
Just wanted to say that we'll just praise Yah for the whole lesson. It was just beautiful. And I just wanted to say, make two comments. One of them is that I really felt like in this week's Torah portion that Yehoshua and Caleb had I know that Caleb, it's written that Caleb had a different spirit in them, but I also felt like both of them, that they had the strength that the other men didn't have because they had switched power sources, that they realized through obedience that Yah, that was now their strength. And that's something that we have to do. We have to switch power sources. We just have to do it for survival. It says in Isaiah 10:22, for this day, I believe this prophecy is for that the remnant of Israel will no longer rely on him that beats it, but will rely totally on Yahweh. And so we have to switch sources, and we have to not be afraid and not want to run back to Egypt for food, water, shelter, any of those things. And we have to understand that our power is the greatest power in all the universe, and that we should not be afraid of anything. And I also just wanted to make a comment about Leviticus 19, 17, and 18, that command. And you touched on it so much during your teaching today about the command for us to love one another. And I say it freely and without the granola and things like that, because we're commanded by the Most High to love one another. And it's a real problem because most of us hate ourselves, And it's quite a conundrum to be in. How do you love your neighbor as yourself when you hate yourself? And so it's something that we really have to start working on, because a lot of us aren't going to get back to the land because we just don't know how to treat one another. We don't understand that Yah redeemed each of our ancestors, that we're his property, and that when you kick your brother in the back, you're kicking in the back of the property of the King of Kings,
Yeah.
We have to get to the point where we have to understand that and really learn to love one another. I know sometimes when I say that, I feel like, people think like, oh, she's in the New Testament. No, that's very much our law.
Yeah, it
You
is.
know,
It is ours. Leviticus 19 and 17, right?
right? Yes.
Not to treat each other with any grudge. Thank you for that contribution.
Yes.
Thank you. Praise Yah. So the greatest enemy you need a greater power. You need the greatest power to defeat the greatest enemy. So we need Yah to defeat ourselves. I got this little chart up here and talks about you and how do we conquer. Okay, we're going to close out. Self-determination. If you notice, I put nation in there, right? It's part of the word to be determined as a nation. That's what I believe. To be self-determined. Okay. Why? For the sake of the nation. That means that you and I have to have goals and strategies. We have to also change our attitude, right? We have attitudes and behaviors that need to change. We need to also deal with transparency, right? We have to give up this idea that you and I can conceal and hide things, because when you and I hide things, we don't think that God knows it, and it will directly, as a result, affect our relationship with him and with others. So transparency is key. Study Torah. Torah study is very important. It's the foundation on which you and I have to be able to do. If we don't do our study in our Torah, we're going to get lost, and you're going to go away off the way. And you're going to start listening to other people, and you're going to get based on your emotions. You're going to make decisions based on those types of things. The Torah is a reference point for us. Okay, they're instructions that guide and protect us, and to help establish Yahweh's rule in our lives, because he is our king. Okay, prayer and meditation, huge. Part of prayer is praise. Part of prayer is, like I said, you don't have to have a bunch of words. It's just communication and talking to Yah. But one piece that I never really fully accepted until recently was this idea about meditation. And what I mean by that is that the meditation is one who is just constantly thinking and pondering the things in which a person has read and thought about, is thinking about the things that you've read, and really not just reading to be reading, right? Because as Okoti had mentioned, we can read a whole bunch of information, but it's about the application of it that matters. So we can read our books, we can do our Torah study, but if you're not really meditating and you're not really applying these principles to your life, then it's all for nothing. The children of Israel were out in the wilderness with Yahweh for some time. And when it came time for that test, they failed that test. They weren't ready. The whole time they've been with him, they weren't prepared. Just imagine if they would have done what he asked them to do. Just imagine if they had a different mindset. They would have been able to go into the land that very day when they came back. They would have been able to start their conquest. But when they didn't have the courage and the competency, which comes from self-determination, transparency, understanding, learning, and studying, and listening to words of Yah, they were out there. Well, did they have a Torah scroll that they had? No, they had the actual Torah being told to them directly to their faces. Moshe was teaching them on the regular basis. Okay, they had an opportunity to pray and meditate upon what Yah said. They had plenty of time to do that, and so they didn't really take advantage of the time. So Yah has sent us out like he sent them. You and I have been sent into exile. And to follow what Akoti Kavika brought out is that you and I were sent out to exile. Why? So we can be tested. So we can find out what we're made of. So Yah can find out on our journey, are we being fake and a fraud? Or are we being developed? Are you and I going to be prepared in that time in which Yahweh comes? That's the question. So that's why we're in this Torah portion this week, if called Shalak. Hallelujah. Any questions, contributions, statements?
I have something I'd like to say. Can you
Yes,
hear me?
absolutely. Yes, we can.
I just want to say how thankful I am for this Shabbat lesson, because this is truly life transforming. It's an answer to a prayer that I prayed this morning.
Yeah.
And for nudging me, because I've been spending my previous Shabbat somewhere else. And last week I got a nudge, the store is closed. You better get over where you belong so you can learn how to truly live a life that's pleasing to Yahweh. And I'm learning these names, so just please be patient with me. But I am just so thankful that I obeyed his voice and tuned in today, because this is just I'm just blown away, if I can say that.
You
This
can.
is
I'm blown
exactly
away.
what I need. I'm so thankful for my um uh I'm trying not to use English words when I learn the Hebrew words. So I would say kotis and
Yeah, a
my
cold.
aunt and yes, that's what I want to say. But anyway, I am so thankful. I am so thankful to all of you for, you know, putting that work in and doing your research and studying, and because this is life transforming.
Yes.
So praise Yah.
Praise Yah. Thank you for that. That's very encouraging. And we're so happy that you're here. Our goal as a community is to continue to help develop one another, right? And I think that's what makes us a different type of group. There's a whole bunch of camps out here and people screaming and yelling at each other. You might hear me scream and all that. I'm very passionate about when I'm reading, because I'm understanding that Yah is real and that he really wants to change our lives. And we're not just taking this trip and this journey with him for the sake of wasting time, or we're not just sitting on our hands and waiting for him to come and rescue us. We were sent into exile because Shalak, we were sent here as a test to find out whether or not you and I are going to continue to hide and lie and be a fraud. Yah wants a relationship with us. He wants us to trust him. He said, well, the people, he said, they saw the signs that I've done. Well, I got a sign for you that you and I have seen each other. You and I are the sign. He says, when I see you to exile, this will be a sign upon you. You and I are the sign. He sent us here without having to open up the Red Sea. And he didn't give us the pleasure of seeing manna fall from the sky. He did not give us the pleasure of us walking over the Jordan River. He did not give us the pleasure of seeing these things. We didn't have the pleasure of seeing the cloud and the fire, and we didn't have any of those things. So why has Yahweh taken away these things from our eyes? Why? Because Yah is telling us it doesn't matter what you see. It's how you really feel about me. I want to see whether or not in a state of exile, what a perfect environment to find out whether or not you and I are going to trust him. I will bring challenges upon you. Your giants may not be men who are, 10 to 12 feet high. Your challenges might be, your thoughts, your mindset, the influences around you. Everyone has to fortify themselves. There's always going to be a battle for us. And the biggest battle that we have is ourselves. And that's been the whole thing. Yah is our power. And the one that he wants to have submit to him is us. If we don't submit to Yah, then you can forget it. It's over. It's over. It's over. So I thank everyone for their contributions and everything. Next week, we're going to have our sister and our Koti. She's going to be on here, Condra. She's from Florida. She's going to be on here. We got people from all over the United States of America on here. And we're growing, and we're going to continue to grow, and we're going to continue to grow. This is what it's going to be, because time is running out. We got to take advantage of our time when we're with Yahweh. We have to seek him while he can be found. There's going to come a day where you're not going to be able to find him. When that day comes, no one's going to be able to say anything to him, because he'll know whether or not you and I have been faithful to him. He will know. He knows. He knows right now. So it's about trust and it's a relationship. So let's try to develop a better relationship with him. And along the way, let's build a better relationship with each other. I think Yahweh would be pleased if we would learn how to treat each other and to care for one another, and also to support one another. It doesn't mean, financially, it means to support each other in our process, in our thinking. Like you said, do study. I mean, Kavika put in a presentation today, just,
Yeah.
I mean, she might have to just, she might just have to, be part of a whole nother thing, all of us. We might have to chop this down where everybody gets 15, 20 minutes. It can't be that. It's not going to be like, well, you guys only get 30. No, if it comes down to everybody making 4 or 5 people doing a contribution that day, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's work together.
Yeah.
You understand? So we'll have 3 or 4 people. We got 2 hours. What is that? That's 8 people. 30 minutes, it doesn't matter. I'm not, I need to speak for an hour and a half. No, if I can make a contribution, I'll make a contribution. I want everybody to get involved. So you let me know if this is something that you want to do. It's open. You understand? So we got one person already online for next week. Condra, somebody else wants to get in, jump in for 30 minutes.
I will.
Who's that? Who, Pam? Uncle T. Oh, yeah. There we go. That's it. So now we got another, see? And then another person. And you don't have to you could just write it on a piece of paper. Let us see your face. It doesn't have to, I got to get my art together because Kavika messed me up. And so did Jared. See, these people, you pushed me to a whole nother level of artistry. I might have to hire a graphic artist. I don't know. But anyway, I'm just joking. Look, this is what we do. And I love you guys. And I'm glad that we're doing this together. Okay. So we have class today at 4:00. I think we're continuing, aren't we, in chapter number 9?
Yes.
Yeah, we got to finish up chapter number 9. And anyone who would like to come to class, you're more than welcome to come. All right. And with that, if anyone else would like to make a contribution or a comment or a question, I'm here to listen for you.